The PGA Tour is facing another wave of debate as players and fans turn their attention toward the rules shaping professional golf in 2026. With the US Open always demanding precision, patience, and complete control, even the smallest change in how a player receives relief, handles a difficult lie, or deals with a rules situation can become a major talking point. This year, that conversation has become even more interesting because the PGA Tour introduced several competition and local rule adjustments for the 2026 season. Some of those changes are designed to make procedures clearer and competition more consistent, but others have raised questions about whether professional golf is becoming too complicated. And with the US Open bringing together the best players in the world, those questions are suddenly under a much brighter spotlight. One of the biggest reasons this discussion matters is that golf is a sport where rules can directly change a player's score. Unlike many sports, there is no referee standing beside every competitor on every shot. Players are expected to understand the rules, protect the field, and make decisions that can sometimes have consequences worth an entire tournament. That is why even a seemingly minor adjustment can create frustration. The PGA Tour's 2026 local rule updates included changes involving preferred lies, embedded ball relief, wrong place penalties, and other situations that players and caddies need to understand. The Tour said its rules committees worked with the USGA and R&A to modify and implement these local rules for competition. The preferred lie change is one example of how a small adjustment can have a meaningful impact. Under the updated procedure, when preferred lies are in effect, the relief area was reduced from a club length to a scorecard length. On paper, that may sound like a technical detail that only rules experts should care about. But for a professional golfer facing a difficult lie, a few inches can make the difference between having a clean approach and being forced to deal with another awkward position. When players are competing for millions of dollars and major championship opportunities, these details become extremely important. Another adjustment concerns embedded ball relief. The updated local rule expanded relief so that players can receive embedded ball relief when their ball ends up in an unrepaired pitch mark in an area cut to fairway height or less. The intention is understandable. Golf courses can produce unusual lies that are not necessarily caused by the player, and the rules need to provide a consistent solution. But the broader question remains: how much should the rules intervene when difficult course conditions are part of the challenge? That debate becomes particularly intense at US Open, where the course setup is intentionally designed to test every part of a player's game. This is where the conversation around the 9 PGA Tour stars becomes interesting. The headline may suggest that 9 players have launched a unified rebellion against the rules, but the reality is more nuanced. There is no clear public evidence that 9 named stars have formally joined together to demand that the USGA abandon the 2026 rule changes. Instead, the bigger story is that professional golfers have repeatedly expressed concerns about proposed changes, competitive structures, equipment regulations, and rules decisions that can influence how the game is played. That distinction matters because fans deserve to know where confirmed information ends and speculation begins. Still, the concerns are easy to understand. Imagine preparing for one of the biggest tournaments of the year and knowing that a rules decision could affect your score because of a situation you encounter only once. Now imagine that the same situation could be interpreted differently depending on the local rule being used that week. Professional players spend years building routines around consistency. They want to know exactly what they can and cannot do. Any uncertainty can become a source of tension, especially when the tournament is a major championship. And then there is the larger issue of distance. Golf's governing bodies have spent years debating how far modern equipment and golf balls allow elite players to hit the ball. That conversation has now moved toward a major equipment change. The USGA and R&A have announced a revised golf ball rollback plan that will ultimately apply to professional and recreational golf on the same timeline, with the change scheduled for 2030. The decision has generated plenty of debate because it affects how courses are designed, how players prepare, and how the sport thinks about distance at the highest level. For many tour players, the concern is not simply whether a ball will travel a few yards shorter. The real question is what happens to the identity of the game. Elite players have spent their entire careers developing speed, launch conditions, club selection, and strategy around the equipment available to them. Changing that equation could alter which players have the biggest advantage. A long hitter may have to rethink strategy. A player who relies heavily on precision could suddenly find certain holes playing differently. Course setup could change. Club selection could change. And eventually, the statistics that define a player's career could be affected as well. That is why some players may look at every new rule through a different lens. One player might see a change as an improvement that makes golf fairer. Another might see exactly the same change as an unnecessary complication. One player may welcome additional relief because it removes an unfair penalty caused by course conditions. Another may believe that professional golf should demand players deal with those conditions without additional assistance. Neither perspective automatically makes someone right or wrong. The important thing is that the players understand how the changes affect competition. The 2026 season has also brought significant changes to the PGA Tour's competitive structure beyond local rules. The official player handbook states that the maximum starting field for an open tournament on one course was reduced from 156 to 144 players, with some events using fields of 120 or 132, depending on circumstances such as available daylight. Eligibility was also adjusted, including a move from the top 125 to the top 100 on the previous season's FedEx Cup points list for exempt status. Those changes matter because access to tournaments is one of the most valuable things a professional golfer has. A player outside the top tier can depend on opportunities at full field events to earn points, improve status, build confidence, and establish a career. Reducing fields and changing eligibility categories can therefore create winners and losers even if the changes are designed to improve the overall structure. For established stars, the impact does not mean every player complaint should automatically lead to a rule reversal. It means the people competing under those rules deserve a voice in how professional golf evolves. The next few weeks could therefore be extremely revealing. Will the new procedures fade quietly into the background, exactly as the tour expects? Or will another major rules incident put the spotlight directly on the USGA, the PGA Tour, and the officials responsible for keeping the game fair? One thing is certain. When the US Open begins, every stroke will matter, every decision will be examined, and every rules call could become headline news. So while the claim that 9 PGA Tour stars are officially united against the rules should be treated carefully, the broader concern is impossible to ignore. Golf is changing rapidly, and the players who compete at the highest level are being asked to adapt to new procedures, new competitive structures, and eventually new equipment standards. The question is not whether change is coming. Change is already here. The real question is whether the PGA Tour and the game's governing bodies can make those changes without losing the confidence of the players and fans who make professional golf what it is. And if the US Open delivers even one controversial rules decision at the wrong moment, this debate could become much louder very quickly.